This, I think we can all agree on. When your chaplain warns you about your cacophony of chaos, you know you're in trouble. Those were the words of Margaret Kibben, chaplain of the House of Representatives, used this morning before the House, nominally run by Republicans, lurched toward another inconclusive vote to elect a speaker. The current Republican nominee, Jim Jordan, lost ground, falling 22 votes short of the necessary 217. This after falling 20 votes short yesterday. This is not what momentum looks like. Proving yet again to become Speaker of the House, you need to count votes better than you can spin reporters. Jordan's camp hypes well, but counts poorly. Twice as many Republicans now oppose Jordan's elevation as Speaker as supported Kevin McCarthy's ouster from the Speaker's office more than 2 weeks ago. The House has not functioned since McCarthy's dismissal. That means the party running the House is confused, impotent, and lost. You can be forgiven thinking, oh, just wake me when there's a speaker. I promise, we will. But first, the majority party must rouse itself from this directionless legislative daydream. Robert Costa and Scott MacFarlane join us now. Robert is CBS News' chief election and campaign correspondent. Scott is a CBS News congressional correspondent on Capitol Hill. And Scott, let's start with you. To the best of your ability, state for us the current state of play.
Things are unmistakably going in the wrong direction for Jim Jordan in his pursuit of the speakership. The other Republicans who've defected from his camp have been pretty emphatic as the night began. He's going to lose more votes the next time this comes up to a ballot. We caught up with Jim Jordan a few moments ago. Let's take a listen to that, and I'll tell you what happens next.
How long do you think this is going to go, Mr. Jordan?
Till we get a speaker.
Going to get back out there and vote tonight?
I don't think we're going tonight, but I got to talk to Patrick about the schedule.
So what are the concerns with Jim Jordan among those who voted a different way? Well, some of them are in very much purple districts, or districts that President Biden won in 2020, including suburban New York City, Detroit, California. And one of those New Yorkers, Anthony D'Esposito, told us that he doesn't like Jordan's voting record, among other things, that he headed the country towards a government shutdown before, was not on the right side of a vote on 9/11 funding. And these are not votes that are going to be easy to change, but there's also this other inescapable reality. There are more and more members over the past 48 hours talking openly, including to cameras, about their proposal that Speaker Pro Tem Patrick McHenry be given this job on a longer-term basis and that his portfolio should be broadened. Republicans have been speaking outwardly about this for quite some time, and now there are some Democrats jumping in, telling me that they might support Patrick McHenry getting the job, at least on a short-term basis, just to reopen the House, to get legislation flowing again, to ensure aid for Israel and Ukraine and no government shutdown. Major, I expect those calls to increase in frequency and volume tomorrow.
Robert, you and I have talked about this. We've been reporting on it all week. What would you say, based on your reporting, is the current attitude and state of play with this idea of enlarging the powers of the temporary Speaker Pro Tem, Patrick McHenry?
It's definitely, as Scott said, a fallback option people are looking at, but it has some constitutional and legal questions. What does it mean to be Speaker Pro Tem of the House? I mean, it's a ministerial role meant for a crisis moment to facilitate the Speaker election, and to expand its powers could be within the rules, but it could also be challenged when it comes to war powers, legislating, appropriating.
And it would need Democratic buy-in. And as I've talked to Democrats, as I'm sure you have too, they would want some concessions before they would agree.
They would. And
this would be an open House floor vote like everything else.
It'd be a very open vote. And Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, has been positioning himself as someone who's willing to listen to Republicans, but he's not going to approach first. He knows he's in a leveraged position.
Right. Scott, it is my sense in this idea of a fallback position. But, of course, Jim Jordan would have to withdraw and no one else seek the speakership, a lot of other things. But just focusing on the Patrick McHenry question for a moment, it's a conversation, but it strikes me as there would have to be some actual negotiations to commence before this really becomes something operative. True?
Yeah, and it's going to involve a bipartisan coalition of Republicans and Democrats. And that's just going to rub any number of Republicans the wrong way at this moment in time, in which acrimony is palpable inside the Republican conference. There is this toxic stew, Major, of animosity, anger, and antsiness among House Republicans 2 weeks into this standoff. And cutting a deal with Democrats is just going to go over like a lead balloon with some number of members of the conference. I talked to 3 Jim Jordan supporters late today: Tim Burchett of Tennessee, Chip Roy of Texas, Byron Donalds of Florida, all of whom, Major says, Jim Jordan should go back on the floor, continue trying to push this towards a successful vote the way Kevin McCarthy did. But I got to tell you, Major, in this unique moment where you have this coalition of, in some cases, moderates opposing Jim Jordan, this opposition feels bulletproof. I mean, these opponents of Jim Jordan inside his own party are making the rounds here at the Capitol, doing interviews and championing their opposition. It doesn't feel like it's about to buckle anytime soon.
For both of you, I want to play an interview I just got finished doing with Ken Buck, Republican from Colorado, in the Against Jordan column twice now, talking about what he thinks will happen to the prospects for Jim Jordan if there are more votes for him to be elevated as Speaker. Let's take a listen.
I think he bleeds 3 or 4 votes this next time, maybe a little bit more if he goes to the floor a 4th time. What he's counting on, there's a lot of grassroots support for Jim Jordan. So the phones are ringing and people are making demands, and there are a lot of members who have folded as a result of that. But more and more members are going to be able to say, I voted for him the first 2 times, now we have to move on and find a speaker.
Robert, how does that strike you? Some members saying, look, I was a team player round 1. I was even a team player round 2, but I can't keep doing this. Does that strike you as something that is not just Ken Buck's opinion, but a plausible, likely scenario for this to play out?
I think that's right. I also think it's interesting you got to sit down with Congressman Ken Buck of Colorado. I mean, he's an intriguing figure in all of this, someone who's been a face on the right wing of the conference for a long time, but has become somewhat of a truth teller about this process. He's even stirred a few chuckles out of me. He's voted for Tom Emmer, the Minnesota Republican, in recent days for Speaker, and he has said he's voting for Emmer because he doesn't really like Emmer and he doesn't think someone good should be in the job. So you say to yourself, what kind of surreal moment are we in politically when someone like Ken Buck is voting for Tom Emmer because he doesn't like him for the job? Because no one's really stepping forward. I still think, though, Tom Emmer is someone to watch right now. Could Tom Emmer, the majority whips, they're all waiting, as Scott was saying, to see, does Jordan go back to the floor for another round of political pain? But even in politics, there's only so much pain you can take. Kevin McCarthy got through more than a dozen ballots. But for Jim Jordan, if the writing's on the wall, when does he step away? No one wants to push Jordan out because of his political capital on the right. But if he eventually does step out of this race, I'm watching Tom Emmer beyond just the Patrick McHenry question, because at the end of the day, so many Republicans I've been speaking with, they would like a speaker, not just a speaker pro tem.
Right. Scott, another thing that Ken Buck told me is he thinks it might be possible that there could be a power-sharing arrangement organized between Jordan and Scalise, wherein Scalise would become the speaker and Jordan could become majority leader. As Ken Buck said it to me, it's 3-dimensional chess. I don't play 3-dimensional chess. I'm just a humble reporter like you. Do you think there's any possibility that what Ken Buck said, this power-sharing arrangement, might actually come to fruition?
Oh, they'd have to mend some fences for that to happen, because there really has been some bad blood formed between supporters of Steve Scalise and supporters of Jim Jordan through this ugly process. And that's what's so pernicious about this standoff, and one reason why it may last quite a long time. The process itself, the tactics, have enraged some people here. Congressman Don Bacon of Nebraska's staff shared with me some text messages Bacon's wife received from some anonymous person trying to leverage her into convincing her husband to vote for Jim Jordan. You know, talk radio, conservative media started mobilizing their audiences to flood the phones of congressmen to get them to call and make them vote for Jim Jordan. That type of tactic is not going to be forgotten easily. Even if Jim Jordan didn't singularly direct it, some of Jordan's supporters may have their fingerprints on it. And you're going to have to mend that fence with Steve Scalise, with the defectors in the conference, and everybody here at the Capitol, all of whom have long memories.
And Robert Costa, about 40 seconds left. Mending fences is work that, as Scott accurately points out, needs to occur, but I don't see or detect yet fence mending efforts. They're still trying to maneuver, and ambition is on full display.
This is not just one party in the House GOP. It's numerous political
The five
fiefdoms.
families, as we say.
It's beyond even five families. That's a mafia term. This is numerous fiefdoms with crossover relationships, and it's so hard to. It's not even like that old phrase they use in politics, herding cats. Herding cats is easy.
Compared to this.
This is like reminds me of a game of Risk we used to do in our basement. You'd have like 5 different boards at once. This is good luck to whoever gets the gavel.
Game of Risk in the basement of Bucks County with Robert Costa.
Brian Fitzpatrick's always welcome. He's from Bucks
Sorry
County.
I missed that. I really am. Robert Costa and Scott MacFarlane, thank you very much.